Hey there, and thanks so much for joining me. Hi, I'm Teresa from Tree60 Handmade Bags, and welcome to my sewing studio. So today we are going to be doing the Eggsy Shoulder Bag Sling from Miko Craft. This is a free pattern. All of Miko Craft's patterns are free. And this is quite a unique bag. So this is a custom bag that I am making, or that I made for a customer, and we're going to follow along with the sew along as well with this bag. So she wanted it to have the Canada flag look, and the center is made with the beige Mora faux leather from EMMALINE bags, and the rest of it is made with a distressed red croco from Amazon. And I embroidered the maple leaf with an applique border stitch, and then sewed it on like a patch. And I show you how that's done in the tutorial. The upper strap connector is stolen from the Bartleby sling bag from Unikatz Designs. So you have this great little pocket inside, and all of my lining is from EMMALINE bags. It is the red pat cloth, which is about a 400 denier waterproof nylon. But in between each exterior layer and lining inside, there is the silver RFID lining because my customer is going to be going on a trip, and she wants to take this and have it a little more secure so that there isn't any possibility of the bag or any of her contents being scanned. So this bag, which is unique of this particular sling, and this is why, of course, it's called the Eggsy, because look at the front. It has a 3D round front pocket with the beautiful embroidered maple leaf on there. And I just have it stuffed with a pillowcase. So inside, there's that beautiful red pat cloth from EMMALINE bags. Lots of room inside this interior. And then on the main compartment, there's lots of room inside here as well. Tons of room. You can put a water bottle in here, a large water bottle. And of course, because it's waterproof nylon, it is, it won't leak or soak through. And of course, I already showed you this cool little compartment that you can put keys or whatever. And this is lined as well with the RFID Faraday material. And of course, this little zipper compartment was stolen from Unikatz. The straps I did differently than what's in the pattern. She wanted the ability to be able to either wear it as a sling with just one strap, or put two straps on and wear it as a backpack. So the connector I did was a 1-inch wide webbing and a 1-inch wide D-ring. All hardware I've used is gunmetal. And this is kind of taken from the Yoshi sling bag, this kind of setup. And then with the D-ring connectors on the back so that the straps can connect backpack style or sling style. One of the things that's not in the pattern that I do add is a back magnetic snap slip pocket, which is lots of room to put your phone in and have something that you want secure up against your body. And this pocket also is lined inside, in between the exterior and the lining, with the RFID Faraday. So this is the Eggsy sling bag. Oh, and the strapping, yes, I got from Amazon. So this is really cool because it goes quite well, and with the beige, and there is white and the black and the red. So it looks amazing with this bag. So get your pattern. I'll have it linked in the description box below. Get your Eggsy shoulder bag, sling bag pattern. Get all your stuff together and come and sew with me, and we'll make this bag together, and I'll see you in a sec on the other side. All right, so today we are going to be making the Eggsy Shoulder Bag. It's a sling bag, and it's a free pattern from Miko Craft, and I'll definitely post the pattern link in the description box of this video. So this is the pattern right here. It is a 2-zipper compartment sling bag, and this compartment here has it has more of a rounded front, almost like a partial bag ball front, but anyhow, and also just to let you know that all the measurements that he has in his videos, they're all in metric. So the conversion, if you have like a unit conversion app on your phone, that's what I use. So I'm just going to give you some of the measurements that I write down on the front of my bag. There are no pattern instructions. All you get is this, and all you get are the pattern pieces from Miko Craft, and you have to follow the his YouTube tutorial in order to make this bag. So I use a 1 8-inch zipper, a 1 10-inch zipper, and a 1 17-inch zipper. So the 10-inch zipper he has is 25 centimeters. The 17-inch zipper is 38.5 centimeters. And then the finished size is approximately 11 inches tall by 7 inches wide by 3.5 inches deep, or 28 centimeters tall by 18 centimeters wide by 9 centimeters deep. I don't do metric. I stick to feet and inches. Oh, and there's Frankie coming to check everything out. So this bag, even though it says it's about 11 inches tall, my bag is going to be bigger because this is a custom bag for a customer. And I am going to be adding from Unikatz design, the Bartleby sling. Instead of it having just a strap connector at the top, I'm going to be adding the Bartleby sling from Unikatz designs zippered pocket compartment on the top of the bag where the strap connects from it. And this bag, the customer has asked for 2 separate straps, so that she can either use it as a sling bag or she can use it as a backpack. So I'll be doing 1.5-inch webbing with 1.5-inch hardware. The hardware that I'm using is gunmetal, and I'll have my Made in Canada label inserted, as well as my bag tag, So the fabric that I'm going to be using for today is, I'm going to be using as the main, for the main body, I am using this red with black distressed faux croco, and I got this from Amazon. Now, all of my exterior pieces, because this is something else that she asked for as a custom bag, all of my exterior pieces and in between the lining, I have put on the silver lining insert is, and I stick it on with double-sided tape. This is the RFID or the Faraday fabric. So that will go in between the lining and the exterior. And the lining that I'm using is this beautiful red. It's the 400 denier pack cloth from EMMALINE bags, and it's waterproof nylon, and it has a waterproof backing. So that's going to be the lining and the exterior fabric. However, on the front of this bag, because in order to make this 3D front pocket, there's a center, and then there's 2 exterior sides that get sewn on to give that curved look. She wants the Canada flag look. So the center compartment, the center is going to be the beige Mora faux leather from EMMALINE bags. And then these are the outer parts that get sewn on. And then in the center is going to be the Canada flag that I will be embroidering onto a piece of fabric of the waterproof nylon. Actually, I have it right here. So what I have done is, and the video will be, I'll be attaching the video so you can see how this is done. I have embroidered onto a piece of faux croco with my Brother's Sewing Embroidery Machine combo. And I have done the outline of the maple leaf in the faux croco. I'll be cutting all around the outer edge of that. So now it's going to look like this. And this will get sewn on. I'll sew all along the inside of the stitching and all around the outer edge of the stitching onto this center panel so that she'll have a Canada flag look. Alrighty, so the first step in making this bag is to create that 3D rounded front zipper pocket. And I've already started it. So this is how it's going to look. This is going to be the center panel that's going to have the embroidered maple leaf sewn onto the front. And I've already done one side of it, which we sew on and then we top stitch around. So I'm going to show you how this gets fitted on to this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this part. I've already got my centers marked here, and I already have my centers marked on here. And there's no right or wrong way of attaching this. So I'm just going to attach one side on the, just going to attach my top edges first onto this panel and the bottom edges, and then match the centers. So the flat edge of this side panel and the bottom edge of the front center panel would meet, and just clip that. And then I'm going to match my two centers. And then what we do is then onto this, on the center panel, usually you clip so that you can ease the pieces in together. Usually you clip the gusset. But in this instance, we're going to be clipping the center panel. So I'm just going to take little tiny nips into the center panel so that I can ease these pieces into each other. And the seam allowance that I'm using, I'm only using 1/4 inch seam allowance for this whole bag. That's typically the seam allowance that I use for all of my bags. And of course, top stitching is 1/8 inch seam allowance. Just clip this. And of course, I have to clip through the RFID fabric, which is very, very thin. It's as thin as lining is. All right, so I've got my little snips, my 1/8 inch deep snips, and I'm just going to splay that panel open along those where I've got them snipped. And then I'm going to just ease into that curve, the side panel, and just match everything up. And then when I get that all eased in, and it might take a little bit of time to work it in, I think I'll do it from this side. Yeah, this side works better. And it takes a bit of time just to get everything eased in to work. And then we'll stitch it up at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And it will be tight depending on how you've cut it. But then of course, me trying to stretch this RFID material, pop your bag in the front of the panel in so that it has a bit of a curve and you're not fighting with it as much. All right, so I'm just going to be stitching that around. Now I do have red Gutermann thread in my sewing machine. It's the heavy duty Gutermann thread that I get from Walmart. And I'm just going to stitch this at a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, making sure that you follow the curves. Don't go too fast so that you don't get off following that curve, because it is a 3D pocket. And I do use my snips just to help hold down the fabric. And I just go slow around these curves, making sure that I work these edges around so that it keeps that 3D look. Just take a little bit of time getting around the that curve, that 3D curve. All right. Okay, so this is what we have on both sides. And this is what it is, how you have it, so that when you pop everything out, this is the top. Remember that your top part of the of this zipper pocket is the curved side, because the bottom edge is flat. So you just pop. What I do is I pop it out, and then we're going to top stitch. So we're going to push your seam on up against your side panel. And then I'm just going to top stitch that down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just to hold that in place. Make sure you remember to back stitch before and after at the top and the bottom, at the front and the bottom. Alrighty, and make sure that you pop your bag, concave it in to follow that 3D pocket line. And then just top stitch that seam allowance down so that there aren't any puckers. And I do have a brand new needle in my sewing machine, and it's a size 17, I believe. It is, yeah, it's a size 17, 135 by 17. I had a squeak in my sewing machine a while back, and I had mentioned in my other tutorials. And I couldn't figure out what the squeak was. And then when I found out, it was because I hadn't changed my needle as often as I should. Okay, so here we have now, you've got your pocket or your front of your bag all made, and it's all top stitched. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the maple leaf that I have already embroidered and I have cut off. I have double-sided tape on the back side that I'll peel off. I'll stick on to this front. Now, this is the smallest maple leaf that I had a pattern for in my embroidery. I'm going to make sure it's centered from top to bottom and left to right. And it's going to extend over top of the edge. Like, this center panel isn't wide enough, and this is the smallest maple leaf I can make. The original one that I did embroider was just too big. But I can keep this for another bag and use this as a demo as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go off camera because I do have to change my thread to black, and I'm going to stitch all the way around the inside right up against that black satin stitching applique edge. And then I'm going to go and do a second row of stitching all the way around the outer edge of that black applique stitching. And we'll get the maple leaf sewn on, and I will be back. Okay, so I now have the maple leaf centered on to this front panel, and I have it just stuck on right now with double-sided tape. So I've changed my top thread to black. I've left the bobbin thread as the red, and I'm just going to stitch around the inner part along the inside of the black and along the outer edge of this applique. And I'll make sure that I put this on fast forward so that you don't have to sit and watch the whole thing. But just to see how this is done. And I'll also be pulling my threads to the back of the bag when I do this. Okay, so there we go. We've got the maple leaf now sewn on to the front of our bag panel. And actually it looks kind of neat, the fact that it kind of over covers the side panels. I think I kind of like that. So as you can see, I have done 2 rows of stitching all around the inside and the outside to create this look. All right, so I'll be back with the next step. Okay, so now that we have the front panel, front zipper pocket of our bag done, we are going to be doing the exact same process to do the interior lining. So I'm going to be sewing that, and we'll just clip it all. Okay, so now we have the inside lining done, made exactly the same way as the front pocket. So there we have it, and I will be back with the next step. Alrighty, so the next step is you're going to need your zipper gusset D, piece D, your exterior and your lining, as well as your 10-inch zipper, which is actually, if you're doing metric, it's the 25-centimeter zipper, which equates to 10 inches. Make sure that your zipper pull is on. And what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be taking the right side of the exterior, and we're going to be putting the right side of the zipper, so the zipper teeth, and the right side of the exterior together, and then the right side of your lining and your right side of your gusset are together. Clip them together so that when you open them up, your wrong sides are going to be together. And then we do that on both ends. So we take the other end of the zipper, center it in your gusset, your zipper gusset lining, line up everything, and then we're going to stitch across this edge, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're going to stitch across this end as well, and then flip it over and top stitch. All right, so this is what we have so far. We have it all top stitched all along all the raw edges and across both ends of our zipper gusset. Now the zipper isn't as wide as the two edges, so just take your scissors and just kind of do a slight angle out into the gusset just to kind of even those ends up without cutting the zipper tape. And then it'll all ease in when we sew everything up together. So I've just angled them in so that it's almost meets the edge of the zipper tape here. And I'll be back with the next step. Okay, so now we're going to be attaching our zipper gusset onto our front pocket panel with the maple leaf. So I turn, make sure you have it right side up, and all your centers are marked, top and bottom, left and right, as well as on your gusset pieces as well. So to mark the centers on your gusset, line up your two seams where your zippers meet, and then clip the top and bottom, and then do the same. Now it's hard to see, I'm wearing a dark navy, but clip your centers on your zipper as well, and then turn it outside so that the outside of your lining is showing and the right side of your front panel is showing. And you're going to mark the centers or match the centers top and bottom and left and right. But make sure that when you put your zipper on, you make sure that you have it oriented the way that you want it. So that if I attach my zipper gusset or my zipper tape to the top center mark and I turn it this way, then I can see that my zipper is closing to the left. So that's the way I want it. And then we're going to clip all around, matching the centers. And then if we have to ease into the, if the gusset isn't as large as the front panel, then we're going to have to do some snipping just to ease everything in. So I've lined up the top centers, and now I'm lining up the bottom. I'm just lining up the raw edges, and of course I'll be sewing at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm just going to sew around here. I'm going to sew from the inside and sew at an 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And let's see what we have. Okay, so there I have sewn everything around, and I do have some edges that I do have to trim off. So this is what it looks like when you turn it right side out. There you go. And there we have our front panel done, almost done. We still have to attach the lining to this. It'll look like a little bowl. So now we keep it oriented this way with the front panel pooched out into the 3D pocket that it is. And then we're going to we're going to attach the lining. Alrighty, so we're going to attach the lining to the raw edge of the lining, we're having the lining right side down. So it'll be right side of the lining together with the right side of the exterior. Match your centers up and clip everything. Just like we did when we made the front panel. And what we're going to be doing is that this part will be turned. It'll be berthed, so we won't be sewing the bottom edge. We'll be clipping it, but we won't be sewing the bottom edge because that will be our turning hole there quite nicely. All right, so I now have the lining all clipped onto the, so you have the wrong sides on both sides showing. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to stitch from approximately here where this seam is, and I'm going to stitch all the way around the outer perimeter until I get to about this seam, and maybe go in about 1/4 of an inch on each edge, and then we berth it and turn it right side out. Okay, I'm just coming down to the other end and I'm just finishing that edge. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And there is our turning hole. So now I'm just going to turn it right side out through this little tiny hole. There, RFID fabric does shed a bit. It does fray. All right, let me get my broken knitting needle to turn. It does give a nicer edge than binding. I have a broken end here, so this is what I use on this side to help splay those edges out a bit better. Okay. All right, so this is what we have. This is going to look really nice, this bag. The exterior. Because your exterior edges, make sure that you just pull them out away from your seams, just to make sure that it's not caught in there. All right, so this is what we have. This is our front zipper pocket. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, because we still have this open seam, so I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape just to seal that up, just to fold it under, and then I'm going to top stitch all the way around this perimeter, and that will catch this open hole, and it'll catch it and close it up. So I just want to put some double-sided tape in there. just catch that. And the top stitching will add a little nice finished detail as well. He doesn't call for that in his pattern, but I always do that because it just, well, it also helps to seal up this open turning hole. He has you hand stitching it. I don't hand stitch. That's not my forte. All right, so I've got a little piece of double-sided tape in there. And I'll just peel the back off. Just turn that, catch it in there. All right. All right, so I'm just going to smooth everything in towards the center, and I'm going to top stitch all the way around here. And I will be pulling my threads to the back, to the underside. I'm not going to be back stitching, but I want to make sure that I definitely catch underneath here where I need to close that turning hole. So that's where I will start. And I'll make sure I start in the red section. Oh, my thread's almost gone. Okay, so now I'm just pulling the threads to the back, and I'll tie them off. And I'll just take a flame to it. Okay. All right, so there's the bottom that had the turning hole opening. So we've top stitched all the way around, and that's the inside look. So now our finished front zipper pocket looks like this. And I have top stitched, you'll only see the red here because the rest of it you're not going to see the red, but I have top stitched all the way around, and that helps to secure the seams in here on the inside, and it also helps to close up that bottom turning hole. All right, so let's move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to be working on our main zipper panel. You're going to need your 17-inch zipper tape, approximately, or 38.5 centimeters if you're working in metric. Mark your centers, top and bottom, on your zipper. And then you're going to need pattern piece A, and you're going to need your lining piece and your exterior piece. Now, this is the piece that I put my bag tag on. So before we finish closing the whole thing up, I'll be putting my bag tag on. So what we do is we take the exterior lining, or the exterior piece, match up. We don't put the zipper tape, we don't put our zipper pull on now, but I want to get it ready just in case, as well as my bag tag I have ready. But we don't do the zipper pull yet. So I'm going to take the right side of my zipper, which is the teeth side, and put it right side together with the exterior, and clip that. Line up the centers. And then clip all the way around. Now my zipper might be slightly larger than the actual actual piece. So what makes it easier for me is I do run double-sided tape all the way around the exterior, the perimeter of the exterior here, and that helps the zipper tape stay on. Oops, there's a piece. So that'll help that stay on because it is on a curve, and you'll hear a vacuum in the background still. All right, so I'm just going to line up the centers of my zipper with the center of my exterior, so right sides together, and just clip along as you tape it along the double-sided tape, and that double-sided tape will help keep things together. And it will have a curve to it when it's finished because it has to follow the curve of that front 3D pocket that zipper pocket that we made. And this will fit quite nicely. So yeah, the vacuum's going to be a little loud. That's why Frankie's here. She doesn't like the sound of the vacuum. So we'll just clip around. Okay. And we're just going to stitch that around, and then I'll attach the lining to the other side. Actually, we can probably do that now. Okay. Actually, that should be going like this. So the lining, I should have done it like this, like I do my normal zippers. I'll run another strip of double-sided tape along the edge, the raw edge, and then we'll attach the lining onto this as well and still clip. Just keeping an eye on that curve. Okay, and then putting the lining right side down so that the lining and the exterior are right sides together with the zipper tape in between. So you've got your little zipper sandwich happening again. Making sure that you line up your raw edges. Even though the double-sided tape helps to hold things on, it's still a good idea to clip in case it comes loose. See, the double-sided tape doesn't want to stick. It's sticking to me. All right, there we go, one side. I'm just pushing the zipper down underneath as I go because it's going to be buckling a little bit as we go around the curve to attach these edges. All right, so now I'm going to just sew around all of this at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going up against my zipper teeth, which gives me my 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm just watching as I get to this curve, as I follow along this curve, that things don't buckle underneath. Keep the zipper flat underneath as well. A lot of curves in this bag. That's what gives it its unique look. I've made quite a number of these bags, and they're quite a nice bag. And that 3D pocket at the front gives you that little bit more space to put all your stuff in the front. Now, the bag doesn't call for a slip pocket or a zipper pocket on the interior of the main zipper pocket, but I'm going to be putting a slip pocket in there just to have an added interior pocket. Okay, so this is what we have, and then we turn. I'm going to turn it right sides out. So now we have, you can see this curve that we've created. And before I do any top stitching, I'm pulling everything away, because what I want to do is, I have the center here. I have my center marked on my zipper here, and I have the center marked on the under curve, and this is where I line up my, this is where I put my bag tag. So I'm just trying to keep everything flat. Of course, the bag tag's just going to be going on the exterior part. And, oops. All right, so I'm going to take my washer, if I can get it off my desk. There we go. And just line it up and center it in between this top edge, not the zipper, but the top edge and this bottom edge, keeping in mind that there's going to be a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance up from here. So I will center it as best as I can, top to bottom. Making sure it's straight. Pretty girl. Okay, I'll just take some double-sided tape, because that's what I use to secure everything. I'll need 2 pieces, or not double-sided tape, Gorilla tape or duct tape. I can see where my marks are, so I'm just going to flip it onto the underside. And I'm not going to catch the lining, because I don't want any of my prongs to show on this side. And I'll put the piece of Gorilla tape or duct tape on the inside to see where, I'm going to find where my marks are now. Oh, there they are. And that helps to secure my prongs and my my bag tag, but also it helps to protect the material as well. All right, so I'm just going to take my seam ripper and just very carefully find those marks. There. I don't have to use fray check on this because it's vinyl, or faux leather, so it doesn't fray. I'm not worrying about the RFID. So there's my bag tag, and I just opened up the prongs, and I'll pop the prongs into those holes that I just made. And put the washer, I can't lift it, on the underside. And when I put my washer on my bag tag, I push the prongs inward. When I install a magnetic snap, I splay the prongs outward like a butterfly. Okay, so before I really secure those down, I want to make sure that this is about as centered and lined up as possible. And I'll push those prongs down a bit more, and then I'll use the other piece of double-sided or Gorilla Tape or duct tape and cover over that the prongs and that washer so that there is no rubbing on the underside of the lining and to cause any fraying or picking. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we are now going to top stitch all the way around here, down the edges, the short edges, and all into the curve area. Talk about perfect timing for the thread to run out. That's perfect timing. All done. I'll have to put another one on. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We still don't have our zipper pull on yet, but now we have the front and back all made and nicely top stitched. And my bag tag has been installed, and I'll be back with the next step. Okay, so now we have our finished main zipper panel gusset, and we're going to be working with pattern piece G, which is the bottom gusset for the bag, and you will have your exterior and lining pieces. All right, so what we're going to do is just mark the centers on each of these pieces. We've already got the centers marked on our curved panel that we just installed the zipper on. And then because my, first I'm going to install my zipper pull. So this is a number 5 zipper I also forgot to mention. And I want my zipper closing from the right to the left. So it'll be closing this way. So I'm going to install it on this end. And I open up the teeth. One of the teeth is going to be longer than the other, and I just pop on one side of the zipper pull onto the teeth, and then the other side, they're going to be wonky. Make sure you keep your finger on the top so that you don't lose it. I line up the teeth so that the zipper pull sits straight. Push it on, and you might hear a click. There shouldn't be any bulging when it goes on. There we go. Now my zippers, because I'm converting from metric to inches and I always cut extra, I'm going to trim the edges of my zippers. There, you can see it better down here. I'm wearing a dark t-shirt. And I'm just going to trim the edges of my zippers using your utility scissors, not your fabric scissors. I always cut extra. And then I'm just going to take my lighter to the ends just to be on the safe side, just to melt them slightly so that they don't fray. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the ends of our gusset, bottom gusset, and lining them up with the edges of our zipper gusset. And then, so that's the exterior, and the exterior pieces are together. So actually what I'll do is I'll just put some double-sided tape there to hold it on. I can't get this to go the right way. Sticking to me. Okay. All right, so that edge with that raw edge, and they should pretty well be the same size. Okay. And then we're going to flip it over to the lining side and do exactly the same thing. Put another strip of double-sided tape across that raw edge. And we're going to take the lining and we're going to put the right side of the lining with the right side of the lining on this pocket, and just clip it in place. And then we will flip it to this side and do exactly the same thing. I'm not going to put double-sided tape on because it's already secure on the one end. So we're going to put the two right sides together of the exterior, line those edges up, and then we're going to just follow with the lining and line those raw edges up. And then we're going to sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance, turn everything, and top stitch all the way around. Okay, so now we have our zipper panel all ready to go, and I'll be back with the next step. Okay, so now we're going to be working on the bottom back strap connectors. So I'm doing my straps different than what's in the pattern because I'm creating a backpack style for my customer so that she can either wear this bag as a backpack or as just a sling bag, so she can decide which side she wants to wear the bag on. So I'm going to be creating 2 straps with a slide adjuster, and each strap will have a lobster clasp, swivel clasp on either end. So what I'm creating is, so with our pattern piece I, which is the connectors for the bottom of the back of the bag, you have these 2 pieces that look like this, and each bottom edge has a straight edge, and put double-sided tape on the bottom of each of these connectors. I have approximately a 6-inch, there, you can see it better there, approximately 6 inches of 1-inch webbing, because I'm going to be using, even though I'm using 1.5-inch webbing for the strap, I'm using 1-inch webbing for the D-ring connectors. So I'm going to put a D-ring on each one of these now before I forget, and I'm just going to clip it. And I've taken a lighter to the ends of each of my straps of the webbing. So fold it over, you have 3 inches. It's probably going to be too long, but that's okay. So take off the backing of your double-sided tape and then fold this edge over about 1/4 inch on both pieces. I can get the backing off. All right, so there we have both edges folded over, and then you're going to take each of those corners and fold them together like this so that the folded edges are together and you have a raw edge here. And then you're going to take one of your D-ring connectors and slide it up under the folded edge so that you have maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch sticking out. You don't want to have, I'll move it over here a little better. You don't want to have it sticking out like this. Lindsay from Lynn's Handmade calls those Shrek ears. I think it's a pretty good analogy. So slide it in so that it's tucked in and you just have the D-ring connector showing. And then we're just going to clip that on these edges and do it the same for the other side as well. Fold over your two folded edges, and then slide your D-ring, your webbing up into it so that it's right butt up against this folded edge, and it's not sitting askew, but it's sitting right up against that folded edge. And then I'm just going to make sure, just by measuring the two together, to make sure that they're even. And then clip them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around this triangle to secure. And and then what I'm going to do is, after I've done that, just to secure it more, I'm going to come in another 1/4 of an inch and do 2 lines of stitching just to make sure that it stays secure. And it'll add a little bit of a detail as well. Making sure that when you do this stitching, that you're catching your webbing into that top stitching, even if you have to come in a little larger than 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, but making sure that that webbing gets caught into the stitching. All right, now I'm just going to continue on with my 1/4 of an inch into the center. And that helps catch that webbing even better and secure it better. There's a lot of stress will be on this point, on this strap connector. And then I'll do it for the other one. Okay. All right, so this is what we have. Okay, so before we continue on with the finishing off the straps, we're going to work on the back of the bag. Now, I add something to my bags that's not in the pattern. So right now, you're going to be working with pattern piece E, which is the exterior of the bag and the lining. So that's pattern piece E. I am adding, which the pattern doesn't call for, I am going to be adding an interior slip pocket, which will go on this back piece attached to the lining. And on the back of the exterior, I also create an exterior magnetic slip pocket. So right now we have piece E, which is the full back, And then I have created my own E1, which is basically just this piece, your piece E, and I cut it 3/4 of the way. I cut it 1/4 of the way down, and I create a slip pocket, and that's going to give me the height that I need to include a magnetic snap on this. So at the moment, let me make sure I get my magnetic snap out. And I will need my Made in Canada label as well. Okay, so I'm just going to take the exterior of the exterior magnetic slip pocket and the lining, and I'm going to put them right sides together, and I'm just going to sew across the top and then flip it over and top stitch at the moment. And they're right sides together, and I don't have the right sides together. This red pack cloth, it looks so much alike on the front, on the right and the wrong sides. Okay, so I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance at the top. And then I'm just going to finger press it forward and then flip it so that the wrong sides are together. Line up this seam so that the edges meet and that you don't see any lining from the other side, unless you want to have the lining peek up from behind. Okay, just like that. And then I'm just going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now this is where I'm going to add the magnetic snap, and I'm going to add the male portion of the magnetic snap first. So there's the male. You can tell it's a male. And you'll need 1 washer. Okay, so I do need my duct tape. Okay, so I basically want the male snap, well, it's going to have to be on the lining side, okay? And what I'm going to do is, because you're going to be able to see that on this side, I'm just going to take some interfacing and I'm going to put double-sided tape on it because I can't iron any interfacing on that. So just give me a quick sec. Okay, I've just kind of grabbed a piece of Decaville Light here, and I'm just going to put a strip across here, the top, just to... As you guys know, I do figure things out a lot on the fly. All right, so I'm just going to make a mark so I kind of know where my center is. Just going to use a removable air erase marker here, just so I have an idea of where the center is. Okay. And where I can put my tape or my Decaville light on the inside. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to take the washer and I can line up the washer on here where I've made the mark, my center mark. And it's not going to be very far from the top because I don't want it way down here. I want it way up here so that there's room, you know, there's room to put things inside and that the magnetic snap isn't in the way. So I'm just going to make my marks for the magnetic snap. Cut my slits. And pop the male, where did I put him? Here he is. Pop the male portion of the magnetic snap in those holes I just made. I guess that could have gone up a little further. And take the washer and splay those edges open. And then I'm just going to take a little piece of this duct tape and cover those. You won't be able to see it on the other side, but I just want to make sure that it's covered. Okay. All right, so there we have the magnetic snap on this side. Just move the female over here. Okay. And I'm going to take, okay, that's, need that. And I'm going to take the back part of the exterior and the lining, and I'm going to put them wrong sides together. And then I'm going to take this lining and I'm going to, it's folded in half, so it's perfect, it's perfect, cut it on a fold, and I'm going to line them up, and then I'm going to baste all the way around the raw edge so that we have the lining attached to the back, and we have the slip pocket, the interior slip pocket attached to the edge here, and then I will connect this slip pocket on this side. But right now I am pinning the slip pocket that we just put the male magnetic snap on to the exterior piece only, lining that up because I want to make a mark of where the magnetic snap, the female, is going to go, because we have to install the female snap. Make sure everything's lined up. And just clip it. Okay, and then I'm going to take my Black Magic marker, permanent marker, so that I know where I'm going to be installing the female portion of the magnetic snap. I'm going to make a black dot on the male portion of the magnetic snap. And then I'm just going to drop that slip pocket onto the exterior of the back piece. And there's my mark right there. So I'll just make a better mark. Okay. And now I'm going to install the female portion of this snap. I can take this off now. And I do need some duct tape at this point. I can use that. And I'll just put it over top of the RFID lining. Line up my hole of the washer to the black dot that I now have on here. Line up the slip mark lines. Okay, and make my marks. And then I will take my seam ripper and make my little slip marks. Okay. And then take the female portion of the magnetic snap and pop the prongs into the holes I just made, if I can find them. Okay, there we go. And then pop the washer over top of those prongs, splay the prongs open, flatten them out, and then put another piece of double duct tape over top to protect any fabric. Okay, so now we have our female portion, our female snap. So now these pieces line up. If I can get it in there. There we go. They now line up. Okay. And I will be back. Okay, so here's where we have now our magnetic snap back slip pocket, matching our exterior. But before we do anything further, I want to connect this now exterior back piece with the lining of the back piece. So that is going to go, they're going to be put wrong sides together. And then this interior slip pocket, which all I did was I just cut as well. I just cut this piece, which I used to make the exterior slip, magnetic slip pocket. I just cut this piece on the fold, folded this over. It's just a very, very simple slip pocket. You're going to line everything up together. Wrong sides together with the exterior and the interior lining. So make sure that those wrong sides are together so that when you look into your bag, you see the right side of the fabric. And then you're going to line up the bottom edges of this new interior slip pocket with your interior lining. And then we're going to baste all of this together. Very simplified, got a broken clip. Very simplified slip pockets that I'm making here. Very easy. Like I said, the pattern doesn't call for them, and that's okay. I'm just going to make sure that my edges meet because the pocket, the slip pocket is a little larger, and that's okay because it can pooch out inside to give a little bit of dimension slightly on the inside. Making sure that your edges meet if they can. As I said, I work things out on the fly. All right, so this is what we have right now. This is the exterior back. This is the interior lining, and now we have an interior slip pocket. Now, before I go any further, I have to decide where I want to put my Made in Canada label. So do I want to put it right up here? I think I'll do that just to make sure that it's there. Actually, I can have it come tucked out here. Okay. So I have a piece of double-sided tape in the center because it's flat, and then I just fold it up to meet the edges. And then I have another piece of double-sided tape on the one side, just so that when I put it on the wherever I'm going to affix it to, it'll stick. Okay, so I'm just going to baste around the entire raw edge here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, or maybe slightly more, and making sure that I catch my Made in Canada label as well and it doesn't get folded. Oops. Okay, now I do have to trim this off because there are some edges that are not meeting. So there we have our exterior back panel with now our new slip pocket in the center, and I've got my Canada label here. So I'm just going to trim off some of these rough edges just to make sure that everything is even. Not too bad. Okay, now before I attach and baste on the slip pocket, well, actually I have to do that first because these are additions. I'm kind of thinking this as I go. That's attached. Okay, I'm just going to clip the slip pocket on at the moment because I have to add those D-ring connectors to the bottom. These little triangles that we made. And they have to overhang a little bit for when we connect them as well, so that they're not right on the edge and they won't pop through the seam. Okay, so I've got a little bit of an overhang here. There, that's better. Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm putting these on the right way. Okay. So I'm going to clip them on and then I'll show you what I'm doing. It's not going to clip, I need my long ones. So what I'm doing is I'm having them go down so that the D-ring is here, so that when it opens up, it's like that. I have it overhanging the edge so that it doesn't pull through, so that the seam doesn't pull through. Clipping it on, and then the other piece will go exactly the same way. And I have it just starting just slightly at that curve, or slightly above that curve. And you can measure it as well, just to make sure that they're even. And the seams will get thick around here if you decide to put this exterior slip pocket on, as well as the interior slip pocket. So right now, of course, we have the interior done with the interior slip pocket all basted onto the exterior panel. And now I've got the magnetic snap slip pocket clipped on, and our D-ring connectors for the bottom to clip our lobster swivel clasps on to create a backpack when I have two, because at the top here, the two other lobster clasps will clip onto one connector like this with a D-ring. And then the customer can decide whether they want to have the two straps, or they can take one strap off and just have one strap. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just baste around to get the slip pocket on the exterior stitched on and basted on. And I'll go over those D-ring connectors a little. I'll go over them twice just to be on the safe side. When I get to where my slip pocket starts, I'm going to just go over that twice, back stitch over top of that, just to make sure that it's secure. There'll be a lot of stress on that as well. All right, now I'm coming up to those D-ring connectors, and they're going to be thick. But since I have an industrial machine, it's going to be okay. But just be careful if you're using a domestic machine and whatever fabrics that you decide to use. It does get thick down here, especially with all the different layers for the D-ring connectors, as well as the slip pockets that I've added that the pattern didn't originally call for. Okay, now I do have some trimming to do. Get my feet under here. I will have to trim some of this because this is going to be bound. But there's the D-ring connectors attached, just basted on. And here is our slip pocket. And I'm just going to grab my phone because there's lots of room for your phone in here as well. I have a Samsung S25 Ultra. So there's lots of room for that in that slip pocket, or a small Kindle, your passports, or whatever. Okay, I will be back. All right, so now we're going to work on the strap connector for that gets attached onto the back of the bag. Now in this pattern, there is a connector pattern piece H that does come with the pattern, but I am going to do my own connector that I like to add on to my sling bag. So we're not going to be using the pattern H from this picture or from this pattern. I'm going to be using from Unikatz patterns, from the Bartleby sling. I'm going to be using the zipper connector that she has on the top, which is this, and I'll be attaching that on to the back of this custom bag. And I like adding that because honestly, I think that that little piece of the strap connector is a waste of space. And this has to be the most innovative strap connector that I've ever seen, that you can have a little zipper pocket in there to put your keys or whatever you want in there. It's a pretty good size. So now, according to the pattern that's written, I have the pattern printed out. You're going to be needing, so the pattern pieces that you're going to be needing for the Bartleby sling strap connector are piece B1 and B2. So it's the exterior fabric pattern piece and the lining and interfacing pattern piece. So that's what I use. And then I have printed out the pattern instructions. Now, according to the pattern instructions and according to the way the pattern is printed, it is, when you look at the bag, the zipper goes down the right side of the bag. So I flip it and make it so that the zipper goes down the left side of the bag, because all of the other zippers are closing to the left, and I want all of my zipper pulls on the left side of the bag. So according to the pattern, I'll be doing it the opposite. All right, so for the lining piece, so I have my lining piece, I also have my exterior piece, and I have the RFID material inside that as well. I have my 8 to 9 inch piece of zipper tape, number 5, and I have my number 5 zipper pull, as well as, in this instance, we are not attaching a single sling strap to the bag. I am going to be making a D-ring connector at the top of it, so that this particular bag will have 2 separate straps. If you remember, on the back of the bag, we created 2 D-rings so that when this connector gets attached to the back of the bag, then the customer can have the option of clipping the 2 straps onto the top D-ring connector and then turning it into a backpack, or just having 1 strap connected and choosing which side. And that's basically like the Yoshi sling bag, that it's the same kind of connecting mechanism as well. So I've cut basically a 6-inch piece of webbing and just folded in half, and I have my D-ring attached onto that. So with the pattern piece, with the wrong side up of the lining, there is a measurement in the pattern to mark a line straight across here and straight across here, and then where you add double-sided tape. And of course, mine is opposite to what is in the pattern. So what you do is you pull off the double-sided tape, and then you're going to fold those corners up to that line. The line is also for something else. So I'm just going to take this corner and I'm just going to fold it up to the line. Oops, get that zipper pull out of the way. And then this one as well, and I'll fold that up to the line. Okay, So this is what we have. It's the edge. It's hard to see because it's all the same color, but it's folded up to that line and folded up to the wrong line. There's two lines here. Yeah, it does get folded up. Okay, yeah, so I've got it folded right. I had to read the pattern. Okay, and you've got that folded up. And then you're going to take your exterior zipper pocket connector panel with the right side up. And then I'm going to take some double-sided tape, which I just had here. All right, so I'm just going to take some double-sided tape and run it down the right side edge. On the pattern, if you do it the way the pattern is written, and this piece is going to be flipped, it'll be the other side. I think Frankie was in here and she stole my roll of double-sided tape. She does that all the time. She steals my clips and she steals the double-sided tape. Okay. So I've put the double-sided tape down the right side, and I'm going to take the zipper, and and the teeth, you don't put the zipper pull on yet. So I'm going to pull the tape backing off, and I'm going to center the zipper over top of the edge and align the two edges. And then I'm going to take tape again, and I'm going to add it onto the wrong side of the zipper. And then I'm going to put the lining right side down. Oh, that tape's probably going to be too long. So you have your two right side pieces facing. You've got your exterior and your interior right side faces. Make sure that you line up all of your edges. Yeah, the double side tape is too long. Okay. And then we're going to stitch down along the zipper teeth. And then we're going to flip it open and top stitch. Making sure that you back stitch before and after. Okay, so there I've stitched that on the front and the back, and I'm just going to flip everything over, and then I'm going to top stitch. Making sure that you have your pieces all lined up the right way. Okay, so there we have the one side of the zipper attached. Just give me a quick sec. Okay, I had to go on a search for my double-sided tape because the one that I was using, it is too wide for what I want. And I had to go look for it because I knew Frankie had stolen it. which she tends to do. Okay, so we've got that stitched and top stitched now. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing the one side of the zipper. And you open up your panel like a bat. Isn't that cool? It does look like a bat. And then you put double-sided tape down this other side. And then put the other zipper piece on that. Teeth down. And center it as best you can. Don't worry about if it's not lined up exactly with the edges of this. That's why we have an overhang on either end, because it's going to be trimmed anyways. So just center it as best that you can, lining up those edges. And then we're going to put a strip of double-sided tape along this edge of the wrong side of the zipper. And then we're going to take the lining, this is the right side of the lining, and we're going to put the right side of the lining, fold it over with the right side of the exterior, and line up all of your edges. So make sure that your edges on the top here all meet, and then attach that to the edge, the top edge of your zipper. Okay, and then again, we're going to stitch all the way down this side. This is a really cool construction. It makes an amazing lined zipper pocket as well. Okay, so there we've done this side now, and then we're just going to turn it outside right. And then we're just going to top stitch along the zipper that we just sewed on. Oops, got it in the wrong spot. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We have the two edges of the zipper sewn, and there's the right side, or the lining and the exterior. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the lining side right side up. And then we're going to fold these over. So I just kind of fold it just where the stitching is on this left side. Now, if you're following the pattern, that'll be on your right side. And I kind of just line these up, the zipper up this way, the zipper tape, making sure that my bottom edges and the corner is folded here, and the bottom edges line up. And I'm just going to make a mark along the bottom of the zipper just so that I can see that this is where they meet up. If my pencil will work, which it won't. Okay, I'll use my chalk pencil. Just so I can kind of see where it lines up. And I'm just going to clip that because I just want to trim this uneven edge of the zipper. It's still going to be all trimmed off. And then I'm just going to take my zipper pull. And I'm just going to put my zipper pull on. Doesn't want to go on. Lining up this line that I made here across the bottom here as best as you can. Making sure that your zipper pull isn't on wonky. And then put it on and then pull it all the way off, okay? And then we have it lined up as best as we can. All your bottom edges. Now I do have some overhang of some fabric here, but everything's pretty much lined up. And then we're going to put the zipper pull back on and leave it on. This just helps line up the zipper tape. Okay, there we go. And just leave the zipper pull, because the other thing is you want to start it from the bottom on the way up so that when this is on your bag, because this is the top and this is where the D-ring connector is going to come out and this is where it's attached to the bag, you want your zipper pull closing on the way up and opening on the way up to on the bottom. So now we're just going to leave it like this, and then we're just going to reach in and we're just going to pull the lining out, turn everything kind of inside out, but not all the way inside out. Oh, I get that clip off, that helps. And then just pull the lining and the exterior apart, making sure that zipper pull doesn't come off. There we go. Making sure everything's all flat. Okay, now we have those lines that we first drew. It's very hard to see mine. I have pencil here. Maybe move my light over a bit. But you can see the lines that I did draw on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my double-sided tape and I'm going to put it along the bottom edge, the raw edge, and then fold that raw edge up to that line. And that creates kind of an inside finished edge. This tape wants to stick to me all the time. Okay, so I'm just going to pull the tape backing off and fold the raw edge up to that line. Like I said, this is a really cool pattern. You'll have to kind of go around the corner because the corner gets kind of puckered there. So just flip that up and then fold. Make sure that you fold, that you make sure that, especially with I'm using this waterproof nylon, so you want to make sure that the double-sided tape will stick. right. So this is what we have so far. Double-sided tape that's holding the edges up, and we have a nice finished edge here. So now what we're going to do, okay, so we're going to align the sides here, making sure that you fold it at the corner, excuse me, and align the sides. There's some barking dogs outside. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start stitching here where the zipper is, kind of just here before the zipper. So on this side it'll be like that. So probably if I start, actually I can just start on the on this side at the corner and just do an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance across this folded edge and end right here before the zipper. And that will create the inside pocket. Like it just amazes me the, I've said this before, the thought process that goes into making these patterns. This, I love, like I said, I love this pocket, and I like using it on different bags and incorporating it into different bags. It's such a unique piece to add to any sling bag, or any bag for that matter, if you want this type of connector. Okay, so there I have, and it's not sewn up along the zipper. Okay, and it says to trim the upper portion. So what we're going to do is we're going to flatten these two pieces out. If I can get them flattened. Actually, we're going to lay them like this. Okay, so we're going to lay them like this. So it looks like a little teepee triangle. Now, she has that you cut this zipper down, but I'm only going to trim it just so that it's even. And then I want to take my lighter to the end of it. And because I like to keep this overhang inside the zipper just for added security, and I really give the lighter a good work over these zipper teeth and the zipper edge, just so that it's a good melted edge. And then what we're going to do, okay, just let me check. Right. Okay, so then what we're going to do is I'm just going to put a little piece of double-sided tape on to hold the ends of my webbing for my D-ring connector together. Holy small! I feel like a kid when it comes to this double-sided tape. It just doesn't want to let go of my fingers. Okay. Just to keep it secure. I've already melted the ends of my webbing, just to be on the safe side. So typically, if you're making this with a strap going to be attached onto this top part, the strap would be hanging down, but I'm going to be putting the D-ring connector in, and I'm putting it in from underneath the opening, the large opening. And I want to make sure that my edges are lined up, which I didn't have before. So make sure that the corners are lined. Because there's a certain way that the zipper is going to be sitting. Okay. Now the zipper is on an angle, because it follows that line of the triangle. When you put your strap or your D-ring connector in, do not follow that line, or else it's going to be sitting crooked. So make sure that when you put it in, now this is just a 1-inch strap webbing. The pattern calls for a 1.5-inch webbing to be used, but I'm only going to be using a 1-inch D-ring connector, although the rest of my strap will be 1.5-inch with 1.5-inch hardware. So I'm going to be centering, when I put this up on the inside, I'm going to be making sure that it's centered between these two points. Making sure that the zipper is lined up the right way it's supposed to be. On here. Interior pocket as well, making sure all those corners I have lined up the right way. And then I'm just going to put my webbing up through the interior part, because we already have this sewn shut, and I'm going to pop it up. I better do it this way so you can see it. And I'm going to pop it up through the center hole. I don't want there to be a lot of overhang of the D-ring connector. So I'm just going to feel for the inside and leave it maybe about 1 inch. So the D-ring fold, the fold is right here. So I'm going to leave it about 1 inch and leave the rest of this overhanging with the zipper tape. And then I'm going to stitch across at 1/4 inch seam allowance across here, making sure that this stays centered and straight up and down. And then I'll do another seam, a double seam at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, just to give it that security. Because what's important is you want to have this D-ring connector or your strap centered. And straight. That's what's important too. All right, so now I'm just going to stitch it across at 1/4 inch seam allowance right now. I'm just going to go over that webbing. Okay, and then I'm just going to come off and then start again at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just to give it that added strength, because there'll be a lot of stress put on this connector. Okay. Just take a lighter to those ends just to secure them. Now, I'm not going to trim any of this overhang. I like to leave it in there just to be on the safe side and for security purposes. So now we just reach in, grab our D-ring or our strap. Well, actually, I can't grab it. So I'm just going to turn it now all the way outside right. Gently pull on your D-ring or strap just to pull that connector out. Get my knitting needle and poke out these corners. Pull the lining. Okay, I didn't get it as centered as I wanted, but that's okay. Okay, so it's not as centered as I hoped, but it still works. And there is the inside lining. Just let me put a clip on this so that I don't pull it off when I put the zipper, pull the zipper pull down. There's the inside of our little pocket. There is actually lots of room in here to put keys. And now what we're going to be doing is I want to take the lighter to this end. I'm not trimming this off either at the moment. Okay. And I'm just going to fold it and just give a quick, a little cut to make a center cut. And now I'm going to take my back piece and I'm going to put it face up, or so right side up, so that when you have the bag facing you, when you have the front, you've got the zipper pull facing you. And I am going to line all of that up. Actually, I'm going to put some double-sided tape down just to help secure it on. It's not going to fit perfectly because this is going to be bigger than this curve. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm also going to have to, just let me base this shut for a second just so that we're not fighting with it. Because I need to make sure that when I sew this on, actually that's not quite lined up, so I will make sure that when I sew this on, I have it sitting high enough that I, sorry, excuse me, that I catch this edge. But I do want to make some snips into the bottom edge, just so that in case I have to ease it around that curve, it will work. Okay, and I'm going to put some double-sided tape around the top of this back of the bag. Probably I'll overextend, but this will help to ease it on and keep it there as I clip it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be putting it upside down, right side facing you, the zipper side facing you, and I'm going to line up my centers, and I'm going to overextend because I know I'm going to be sewing over and above what the seam allowance, it's going to be definitely over this because I want to make sure I catch all of my edges. And I will be sewing it from the other side just to make sure I can see everything. Tape doesn't want to stick. I think when Frankie was playing with it on the floor, it probably picked up some stuff so it doesn't stick anymore. She's funny. She loves anything that's a circle to tape, and she steals a lot from here. She steals thread. She steals my thread, little silicone thread clamps, bobbin clamps. Let me do it from this side. Yeah, this is going to be big. To go like that. Okay, so this is how we have it. Get that tape out of the way. So I'm going to not be sewing these. All of this is eventually going to be trimmed off. This is going to be trimmed off as well because we do have to bind around here. So I am just now going to sew that all, excuse me, sew that all on. Make sure I give it a good generous seam, more so than 1/8 of an inch. Make sure that I catch everything, nothing's buckling, also because of course this curve is smaller and tighter than this connector. So you want to make sure that as you go around that curve, everything stays smooth and nothing's buckling. The back piece of this bag is really going to have a lot of bulk on it because of the connector and the D-ring connectors. Okay, and I'm just going to go around and do another stitching on this just to be on the safe side. Actually, no, because it'll all catch in when I sew it all and bind it. There'll be 2 more extra rows. Okay, so that's what we have, so that when we flip it up and we're looking at the front of the bag, there we have our connector with our zipper pocket, and that is all sewn in. So right now I am just going to give this a quick trim, and I'm going to take my lighter to it and I'm going to seal the edges just to be on the safe side of everything. I don't like having to trim this, but you can't leave it with when you're going to be binding the edges. Okay, just take the lighter to the edges just to be on the safe side. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Our back is now complete, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to be connecting our back panel to our main zipper pocket gusset. So turn it inside out. At this point in time, you can have the zipper open if you need that extra give for easing it in. And I got it turned, and I have all my centers marked on the top and the bottom on both sides of the gusset, as well as the top and the bottom of the bag. So take your zipper, first of all, I'm going to put double-sided tape just all around where the zipper is going to go, all around this area, just to help stick it on and to get around that curve. I find that this does help. It's not necessary, but because we're working directly with the zipper and sewing it on to the main exterior back, it just helps that little extra bit to make sure that the zipper stays in place and that you can get it around those curves. Okay, I'll just peel the backing off. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, and if I feel like I need to undo my zipper, then I will, but at this point I'll leave it closed. So I'm just going to line up the center of my zipper with the center of the back exterior, and I will be clipping as I go. So I'll do the top first, and then I'll line up the bottom edges and then work my way around each side. Okay, I'm just matching up the centers on the bottom. And then I do like to start at the zipper end to work my way around, and I think I am now going to undo the zipper just to give it a little bit of give and help around those corners. But having that double-sided tape on those corners does help, or around that curve does help a lot. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all around, making sure everything's tucked in. So I'm just going to take one of my larger clips. I've tucked in this part of the bag, and I'm just going to clip it because it'll clip to the it'll clip to this zipper pocket from the underneath, and I'm just going to clip them together just to keep them out of the way. So I'm just going to stitch around. All right, so I have stitched around and stitched this part onto the bag. Yeah, clip that. And then I am going to see what our next step is. I have to decide whether I'm going to berth it like he does in the pattern, or whether I'm just going to bind it, because I still have to attach one of the lining panels to here. We have so far of the bag. So when we flip that up, there's our strap connector. And then on the back, we have our magnetic slip pocket, and we have our D-ring connectors. All right, I will be back with the next step. Alrighty, so now at the time of filming the bag, and I got the bag all completed, so this section is going to be inserted in. I went and used the berthing method for this back panel, like it says in the pattern. And I didn't realize that when I was following the pattern using the berthing method and adding the section here, I thought the section was going to be a divider between the front and the back zipper pocket. But what happened is it turned out to be the berthing method for the back lining, which I have already done, and I already included my Made in Canada label and my slip pocket. And what it did was it completely covered it, and it was completely buried. So what I did was, first of all, I did forget to top stitch across this slip pocket, interior slip pocket that I made. That's not a super big deal. So what I did was I unpicked that whole piece of lining, and I'll be editing sections out, but you may hear me say that in retrospect, I wish I had bound the bag, the back of the bag, instead of berthing it like he has in the pattern. So now after I've all picked it all out and just reinforced the stitching all around the perimeter, I'm now going to bind it. So I fold over, I'm using my 1-inch red grosgrain ribbon, and I like to use grosgrain ribbon because the edges are finished and it has this nice silky sheen to it. So I'm going to fold over the one raw edge, and I'm just going to clip it onto here, making sure that the back edge is even on this side with the front edge, and it covers the entire raw edge of this bag. So I'm not going to clip all around. I'm just going to feed it through and pull the grosgrain around as I sew around it, and we will finish it that way. Making sure that that is not coming loose from the underneath. Okay, so now I have it attached, and as we work around the bag, I'm just going to feed the binding around each section that I'm going to be sewing, and just making sure that the front and the back of the binding is even. And I catch both of them in the stitching. Especially around these corners. And I should have bound right from the start. It's what I was going to do, but I thought, oh, I'll just follow the pattern, not even realizing or thinking ahead that I was going to cover all of that work that I had already done. And actually, the binding method is so much easier to do. than what the birthing, at least for this bag. With the fabrics that I've used and the additional pockets that I've added. It's a little bit of a fight at some points. I'm just going to move my zipper pull out of the way. And then just watch that zipper tape as I come around it. And if I had done the binding method at first, then before, because now this front part of the bag is sewn on at this point in time, as I'm recording this, I would have top stitched this to the panel so that the binding would have been away from the zipper pull, or the zipper tape. Okay, so we're just coming around the first curve on the zipper. And if I miss any spots, then I'll go back and restitch them on. But I'm getting pretty good with my binding now. I've had a lot of practice. And binding isn't anything to be scary about either. It's just finding the knack that works for you. And like I said, the Girl Grain ribbon is what seems to work for me. And it's not, I think it was maybe $30, $35 on Amazon for this massive roll that I have. If I remember, I'll show you the roll. And I have black, and I have some beige. I didn't get a whole roll of beige. Move that D-ring connector out of the way. Almost done. Arm's getting sore. All right, I'm going to take the raw edge and just fold it under as I come to the end here. Oh, I just cut it off just in the nick of time. I could have left it a little longer. Just back stitch over top of these ends. All right, and we will check the moment of truth now to see if I caught everything on the underside. Beautiful. Yay! Okay, so there we have the binding. Now we can see our slip pocket and the Made in Canada label. And now we have it all sewn and bound. Okay, so we are now going to connect our back to our front and the lining in between to separate the two compartments. So I've turned the back panel and gusset inside out. I have clipped all the way, I've done just little 1/8 of an inch snips all the way around here, just to give it a little bit of room for easing. I have added some double-sided tape all along the top of the zipper, just to make sure that we can get it to stick. So you're going to put your bag, excuse me, inside out, and you're going to set it in like a bowl. And I'm just going to take the double-sided tape off, and I'll probably open the zipper. So I'm just setting it inside like a bowl, sticking it in, and I'm going to line up the bottom ends first. So I'm going to match my centers on the bottom, raw edges together. Squish it down if you have to. It's going to be slow sewing around this way. I had to close my blind. The sun is coming in here. Okay, so I've stitched all around. I'm going to turn it outside right, just to make sure I caught everything. We still have the interior lining divider to do too. And then binding. All right, so the zipper looks good. Okay, that looks great. So there we have it so far, a semi-finished bag. Okay, I'll turn that back. Okay, so now I have it turned inside out. And what I will be doing is I'll be taking our double lining that we sewed together, basted together, right sides both facing out, wrong sides together. I will be attaching it and clipping it on to this, matching my centers and clipping it all onto here, sewing it all around, and then I'll be back with the binding. Okay, so now I have put the that double-sided lining into the what was left to sew, the raw exterior, and pushed it in like a bowl. So now I'm going to stitch all around this perimeter, and then we're going to bind it to finish off this bag. Alrighty. So I've already cut a length of my 1-inch grosgrain ribbon, red, to use for binding. And I'll clip it all around a bit. Okay. Put them on the wrong way. Oh well. Okay, and I'm just going to fold over that raw edge and feed it onto the side here, make sure that they're even. Okay, and now we're going to stitch our binding on. And I'll start from the side, which is where I've started my binding on the side, so you're not looking down into it. Okay. Make sure I've caught it on both sides. Thread. Okay, so there's our binding. It's almost a perfect match to this lining. Now we're going to turn the bag out and see how it looks. Make sure I'm turning it the right way. My thumbs definitely get a workout turning bags. Poor Frankie, I had to kick her out because she wanted to sit at the window here, but the sun's coming in and I had to close my blinds. So she wasn't very happy about that. Oh, I hear her now. She heard her name. Okay. All the clanging from the hardware. And after the bag is finished, I'll stuff this with tea towels to help keep its shape, especially the front pocket. So here is what our bag looks like without the straps. So, and of course, this is all once we get once we get the tea towels and she has stuff in here, it will keep its shape. But look at that. That's the size of the pocket. But look at that. Doesn't that look great? This is a really nice bag. Okay, so now I will make our strap webbings and I'll be back with that. Okay, so I have already made the straps for this bag. And I bought this webbing, which is really, really nice. It's a really nice webbing from Amazon. And I have already made the straps for this bag, but I want to show you how I made it. So I do have a spare piece of this webbing. And just make sure that you take a lighter to the ends to melt the ends. And I've changed my thread over to black, just to melt the ends so that they don't fray. Oh, that one's going to fray there. So we're just going to do a quick strap. I forgot I had those straps already made, and they match this bag perfectly with the beige and the black. All right, so we're going to take our Tri-Glide strap adjuster. You're going to take your one end of your strap and you're going to have the Tri-Glide right side up. So on the underside, the wrong side of the Tri-Glide is the flat edge of the middle bar, and on the right side it's the curved edge, the nicer edge. So you're going to take your strap, feed it up from the bottom on the first opening, go over top of the bar. It might be hard to see because of my dark t-shirt, and then feed it back down through the other hole. And then what I do is I fold with the webbing. I fold it under about 1/2 inch, and then I will sew it on to, so I fold the raw edge over 1/2 inch and then fold it onto the underside of that webbing. And just stitch it a couple of lines, making sure that the tri-glide does not get in the way of your presser foot, because that has happened. So I just fold it over enough just so that it doesn't catch that tri-glide. And I go back and forth a couple of times just as a bar tack stitching, just to make sure that it holds. Just take a lighter to those long thread ends. Okay, so now you have your right side of your strap, and now your wrong side is the edge that was folded under. So take the right, make sure that it's right side up, follow it all the way to the other end, take your swivel clasp and feed the raw edge of the strap through the hole of the swivel clasp, and then making sure that everything is all straight and not folded. Then you bring that raw edge up to the tri-glide again, and on this side of the tri-glide, feed it under, over the bar again, and through the other side, so that you have this now. You have your swivel clasp and your adjuster works, and you still have it right side up. That's right side up with the tri-glide like this. Take your other swivel clasp with the hook facing up and slide that through. And then we're going to do exactly what we did when we attached the tri-glide. You're going to fold that raw edge over about 1/2 inch. And then I sew it. Now you can rivet it, but because this is webbing, the riveting holes could fray. So I find it better just to sew. And there are fancier ways to finish this off. And I just sew it back and forth with another bar tack stitching. I kind of go forward and back twice. Okay, and there is our strap. Just finish off those threads, and there is our adjustable strap, or the fake one, because I've already got them done. So let's show this bag off. We made the two connectors so that one will clip onto the back D-ring, and it'll clip on to this bottom D-ring on the one side, and then you take the other swivel clasp and clip it on to the top D-ring. So now you have two. This is just like how the Yoshi is, and clip it on to the D-ring on the bottom. So this is what our Eggsy shoulder bag sling now looks like. Isn't that beautiful? It's not all the way turned out, but look at how well those straps match. Isn't that gorgeous? So we have this beautiful 3D pocket that's all squished in right at the moment until it gets filled with things. So you have that 3D pocket that's quite large. It's not flat, so there is lots of room to put things in. You have your main zipper compartment on the top. Lots of room inside there as well. You have your little zipper compartment with the added Bartleby strap connector from Unikatz Designs. You have that. And then on the back, you have your magnetic snap closure. Lots of room to put your phone in there as well. And then you have your adjustable straps on this Eggsy shoulder bag. So thank you so much, everybody, for sewing along with me. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so now. On the bottom right of your screen, there is a little red subscribe button, and just click that and subscribe, and that would be really, really great. And I really appreciate everybody watching as I have done this Eggsy shoulder bag sling, I call it, which was a custom made bag for a customer of mine. So thanks a lot again, everybody, for sewing along with me and for being part of my channel and just hanging out with me while we sew. All right, take care, and we will see you when I do my next tutorial. Take care.